And
we got to stop gossiping. We have to start the show.
That's right. Sorry.
Okay, so we'll circle back to the gossip because we have Cassie.
She's coming.
Cassie is coming in about 30 minutes. She's going to be with us at the top of the hour. Before that, we do have some Farcaster-ish type news. I mean, I don't want to get anybody too excited when I say that. So I don't mean like, the news, like not the capital D news, but just news.
This is,
I
feel like this is the worst bait I've ever seen.
I know, I'm horrible at baiting. Anyway, we're going to get going. So let's get some folks in here. Recast, retweet, let people know we are live. And I'm really excited to chat with Cassie. We've had some really interesting things going on this week, mostly outside of Farcaster that have an impact. Vitalik's got some things to say. So we're going to dive into all of that just on the other side of this. I forget how long this one is. 41 seconds. Welcome to GM Farcaster, bringing you everything from breaking news to spicy memes to the deep lore shaping this vibrant digital community. More than just a show, GM Farcaster is your digital third space where the community connects, the stories unfold, and the culture thrives. Whether you're a daily caster or just dropping by, we've got the latest buzz to keep you plugged in. So grab your coffee and let's dive in with your hosts, Neynar Prof and Adrian, for another episode of GM Farcaster. GM Farcaster. It is Wednesday, January 21st, and you are here with Neynar Prof and Adrian for 29 minutes of Farcaster news to start your day, plus a chat with the Cassie Heart to chat about Qualibrium and Quorum Mobile. And I'm very excited about that because I was on Quorum Mobile today, just playing around. I keep trying to jump into all the different clients, and they're getting really good.
There's so many
really good.
And there's
so many.
Getting shamed because I'm not using them.
I know,
but
I feel bad.
I'm going through a little bit of a tumultuous time in my personal life these days that I'm not going to talk about on the air right now.
Okay.
But I just want people to give me a little bit of space, and I promise to try them all. I feel bad. I feel like I should be the one trying them all, and I only just used the Degen app this week.
All right.
So I'm.
And we're going to have, by the way, we're going to have Jacek on next week.
Yes.
So to talk about the Degen app and Degen. So that'll be happening. We have was it next week or the week?
Sorry.
Yeah, it's next week. We have so many guests coming on. Yes, Adrian asked you for her privacy at this time while she does not use your client. Please don't add her.
You know what? I feel bad. I know I can do better, and I'm disappointed in myself. And we do have a lot of guests.
Oh God, I just remembered something. Pine Tree team, I'm very sorry. Huey, I know you're in my DMs, and I'm so sorry I forgot to set it up. I was supposed to reset our streaming key and everything, or our, whatever, the RMTP, and I forgot. I meant to do it right before we went live, and I totally forgot. So I'm sorry. We'll get it done before Friday. I apologize. It hasn't been working properly, so they reached out and said you need to fix this. So anyway, so there's multiple streaming clients. There's multiple Farcaster clients. It's a lot. We're trying to do all
also under the premise of Farcaster is dead.
Yes. Yeah. Farcaster is clearly dead. I have 5 different clients I tried this morning, so very dead. And they're all very active and they're all very different. This is what I'm enjoying right now is that they're all very different. Like even your feed is different. So you see different things, you see different people, and that to me is really exciting, but also the way in which information is presented, the focus, they all change. They're all different. So go check them out. And we'll dive into some of those in a little bit more. But first, on the world news, before we get to local news, everybody's over in Switzerland because that's where the Illuminati meets this time of year. So Brian's been welcomed in. And this was from Decrypt. Coinbase CEO seeks win-win on market structure bill in Davos, a charm offensive. Brian Armstrong is set to meet bank CEOs a week after Coinbase pulled support for the crypto market structure bill. They didn't, I mean, they pulled support. They said they can't support it in this form. Not the whole thing. There were just a couple points that they wanted more discussion about. And I did watch him on Bloomberg as well. This is another cast from him, just arrived in Davos for WEF. 3 main goals this week: talk to world leaders about economic freedom and how crypto can update their financial systems, continue the push for market structure legislation without letting TradFi ban their competition, keep pushing for tokenization to democratize access to capital markets. The future of finance is here, and it's time it's built for the people. So what I found exciting about this is I saw 2 things. I saw him talking on Bloomberg. He did a great job. By the way, look at, like, go back to Brian, like even 5 years ago to Brian now. He's had some good media training.
He's very charming.
He's getting there. Yeah, he's much better. So there's that, but it was really, there were moments that were very funny, and she was tough on him. So I'd highly recommend watching that Bloomberg interview he did. But, you know, he was talking about how, you know, he only wears a suit when he, like, is there or he's in Washington. He's like, otherwise he's in his hacker clothes. And then there was a panel that he was on, and he was talking to folks who were talking about central banks and how they trust the central banks more because they're more decentralized. They mentioned decentralized, and he went, wait. He's like, they said something about Bitcoin being too centralized or something like that. And he was correcting that. He's like, it is the most decentralized thing. He's like, no, I think they said the people who own Bitcoin, like the owners of the chain. And it was like, hold on. So there's still a lot of education that needs to be done at that level. So I appreciate that, you know, for whatever criticism you may have of Coinbase and Brian, and a lot of it is very well placed. I appreciate there's somebody in the room at least being able to educate and correct some of those, you know, notions that are just don't make any sense. So there we go. So that's what's happening over there. Meanwhile, moving on. Also, not really in local news, but now to national news, into the larger crypto sphere. We have this from 0xluo, who, and this is just a good explanation of this, but yesterday, Mask Network, it was announced that Mask Network, which is not MetaMask, let's clear that up right now, has acquired Lens. So they are taking over Lens Network that is no longer under Aave and that team over there in Stani. So this was from 0xluo. It looks like Mask Network is acquiring Lens. It feels like a move toward consolidating resources and focusing on building better products. I've talked about this many times. It's honestly a shame that so many big Lens clients have shut down one by one. Interesting. Favor app, Hey, Butterfly, and now only Orb remains, plus Firefly app as an aggregator. So, and a lot of, like, Hey and Butterfly were also aggregators. Like, you could post there and it would go to Farcaster as well. Whether it was launching a token, memberships, or experimenting with other monetization models, none of these attempts really prove sustainable in the long run. Part of the reason is that Lens's user base was simply too small. Another is that the ecosystem was it was extremely fragmented. Different clients didn't interoperate well, features weren't shared, and users ended up scattered across apps, which only made each individual client weaker. The reason I'm reading all this is I feel like there's some really good warnings here and good note to, like, be aware of. That's why I think Farcaster's product-led protocol development makes a lot of sense. If Mask becomes the new steward of Lens, there may finally be an opportunity to consolidate resources across the ecosystem and truly double down on making Orb and Firefly even better products. And perhaps most importantly, there's little reason to doubt Mask's commitment to the ideals of decentralization. Maybe one day we'll see Farcaster gain a new steward as well. There are already some rumors along those lines. Yeah, we'll get to that. That's in local news. If that happens, I wouldn't be surprised, and I'll be inclined to believe it would be for the same reason, concentrating resources to build better products, attract more users, and ultimately help the protocol grow stronger as a whole. Desoc can only go mainstream once there are great products that people genuinely use. And the full announcement was over on Twitter by the Lens team and Mask. So go take a look at that. But I felt like that was a really good review of that. And then we had this morning from Vitalik weighing in. In 2026, I plan to be fully back to decentralized social. If we want a better society, we need better mass communication tools. We need mass communication tools that surface the best information and arguments and help people find points of agreement. We need mass communication tools that serve the user's long-term interest, not maximize short-term engagement. There is no simple trick that solves these problems, but there is one important place to start: more competition. Decentralization is the way to enable that, a shared data layer with anyone being able to build their own client on top. In fact, since the start of the year, I've been back to decentralized social already. Every post I've made this year or read this year, I've made or read with firefly.social, a multi-client that covers reading and posting to X, Lens, Farcaster, and Blue Sky. Though Blue Sky has a 300-character limit, so they don't get to see my beautiful long rants. Okay.
I didn't know that about Blue Sky. I actually
I
might need to go make my account after hearing that.
She loves a short form. But crypto social projects have often gone the wrong way. Too often, we in crypto think that if you insert a speculative coin into something, that counts as innovating and moves the world forward. Mixing money and social is not inherently wrong. Substack shows that it's possible to create an economy that supports very high quality content. But Substack is about subscribing to creators, not creating price bubbles around them. I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. Anyway, over the past decade, by creating price bubbles around them, and all fail by one, rewarding not content quality, but pre-existing social capital, and two, the tokens all going to zero after 1 or 2 years. Anyway, that long? I think he meant days. Too many people make galaxy-brained arguments that creating new markets and new assets is automatically good because it elicits information when the rest of their product development actions clearly betray that they're not actually interested in maximizing people's ability to benefit from that information. That is not Hakean info utopia. That is corpo slop. Shots fired. Hence, decentralized social should be run by people who deeply believe in the social part and are motivated first and foremost by solving the problem of social. The Aave team has done a great job stewarding Lens up to this point. I'm excited about what will happen to Lens over the next year because I think the new team coming in are people who actually are interested in the social. Even back when decentralized social space barely existed, they were trying to figure out how to do encrypted tweets. I plan to post more over there this year. I encourage everyone to spend more time on Lens, Farcaster, and the broader decentralized social world this year. We need to move beyond everyone constantly tweeting inside a single global info war zone and into a reopened frontier where new and better forms of interaction become possible. Okay. I usually do not read all of Vitalik's stats because they're usually like that, but I felt like this one was so central to what we've been talking about and what we're going to talk about today with Cassie, that it was important to kind of have that full context. And I do see you down there, Cassie, GM. We'll be bringing you up in about 15 minutes. We've got a few more things to talk about, but that was really good to read and to kind of get his thinking right now. Some folks were like, well, it's because his friends are now taking over Lens. I'm like, no, he's been doing this the whole time. It's all there. So it was, I was happy to see that. Any thoughts on those two things on that bunch of info that I just dropped?
No, I love to see it. And it reminded me also kind of what brought me to Farcaster from the beginning as well. Mm-hmm. I also had a thought because I wrote a cast about how I also find myself deeply pro-social. And then I realized, I think the word social is starting to get thrown around, and it doesn't really mean anything. And it probably requires some clarity of like, what do we mean by social?
Well, what do you mean by social?
Yeah,
Let's
well,
start
I
there.
started writing that cast and I realized I hadn't been able to articulate it, so don't ask me. I mean, I
Okay.
think it has to do a lot with, yeah, I actually am not going to answer that right now
Okay.
because
When I
I
think
think I
about,
have the thoughts, but it's
yeah, and I don't know if I fully have a fully formed thought on this either, but here's my thinking. I think there's a big difference between social media and social network, which we've said before. Yes, it's exactly what we mean. Yes to crypto. By social, we mean 24/7 trading. Absolutely. With your friends. That makes it social. I do kind of mean that though. I actually do, but I'll circle back to that. But I think a social network is very different from social media. And I think sometimes those two get equated as the same. And I think I think you have to think of those a little differently. But also, I do think there is a place for SocialFi, and I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think it makes perfect sense because if you are excited about something and you want to share it with your friends and it might require money of some sort, like it's gonna happen. So it's gonna happen one way or another. It's just a matter of how we do it. Is it in a group chat on Telegram or is it, out in the open publicly? And I'd like to see more of that. So I think it's still, I've heard this like, oh, SocialFi is dead. I'm like, it's just getting started. You people are absolutely, batshit crazy. And all you have to do is watch what Pump is doing and watch what Robinhood is planning and, go beyond like what we see in our little bubble. So anyway.
yeah, I mean, so much of the social, but like even this talk, it's so narrow to Farcaster and crypto. And I'm like, what I'm trying to get at is what social means in a really broader sense of humanity. So like technology aside,
Yeah.
what's a society? It's like a lot about how do people collaborate together to create mutually beneficial systems. So like in your like thinking really, really small, and then
Sounds like a
the
DAO.
internet created a place where the world can talk to each other.
Yeah.
And that's great because you can find like-minded people from all over the world. And, we've talked a lot about our kind of past, like I have loved social networks. I've met so many people and have gotten so many good opportunities. And then there's like the flip side of why social media is the worst thing that's ever happened. So my general thought and why I was attracted to Farcaster was because I don't think any one person can solve it.
Yes.
Like
I agree with that.
So like,
and that's why I'm really enjoying this moment where we have so many different clients that are really well thought out and have a point of view. It's not just like an exact replica. And did you see Chris Crocreated's? I didn't pull it. The Philosophical Foxes post that he did and how he's thinking about SOFA. And it was like, it was you. So,
but
social media sucks. Long live social media. Exactly. Links. Exactly. All right, let's do a couple more things and we can get Cassie up here, who we definitely want to talk to about all of this and how she's thinking. Meanwhile, this was funny. Farcaster, this is Adam. Farcaster pivoting from social to become primarily wallet focused, MetaMask acquiring Lens to become more social focused. Again, not MetaMask.
But
not
if
MetaMask.
It were, great.
But if it were, also that would
well
make
done.
perfect sense. But it's not. I think Phantom mentioned they were adding social to it as well. But I loved this from Nikki Sapp. This was perfect. Schrodinger's app. Everyone's anxious because the team is quiet. So we've used our critical thinking skills. So it's pretty clear what's happening is some kind of acquisition, merger, or something, obviously, which means they're probably in some kind of legal due diligence time period, quiet period, where you can't talk about it. So everyone just chill. Just chill. You're getting crazy. Absolutely crazy. So it's
fun, but that's not fun if you just don't talk about it. By the way, that is a probable likely scenario more than others.
Yeah.
But it is not the guaranteed only scenario. There could be other scenarios that that have maybe, I mean, this is why prediction markets are fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. I get that. And they're also social. I have no chill. I know, Cassie. But that's actually part of your charm. It's different. This is from Oxford, reading between the lines, folks, quoting TWR saying American public schools underteach the physics of weather. Like, what? Please talk to me.
Meanwhile, is everybody getting ready for this weather pattern coming across the US today? And all I have to say, and I know completely off topic, and you're going to kill me because we're already behind schedule.
And I live in Florida.
All I saw yesterday was like Twitter all over being like, massive storm coming. And I just want to say, I didn't trust it because Twitter turned into rage bait. And I'm like, is this real? Or are you just trying to kind of like engagement bait me? And
Jim Cantore is your friend.
And all I have to say is that's the problem with trust. When you lose someone's trust, it's really, really hard to get it back. And that's what you've done to me, Twitter. I don't believe anything you say anymore. Anyway, go stock up your fridges, people, and get some firewood. All right. Yeah. Back to Farcaster news. Back to local news.
Weather. Thank you. That was our thank you for that weather report, Adrian. Now back to local news. But yeah, it is going to be bad out there, so be careful. And also because it's hitting some of the South and Midwest, it doesn't get that kind of weather, and that's the big problem.
Right.
Follow Jim Cantore. He's trustworthy. But also if he shows up in your area, you should have already left. I've been in that situation. You're too late. You should have already left. Okay, moving on. And then this was from DS8. What if Merkel is quiet because they're acquiring the only Base sequencer? Did think that was funny. There's been a lot of chatter about Base having just one sequencer. And this from Seb Zapper. So Binance is buying Farcaster. That was the first time I heard that one mentioned specifically. So that would be the least likely scenario I've ever heard. So
I think of other lower likelihood, but
not really. That one's pretty much up there. I think that would pretty much be at the top of the list in my mind, based on who the founders are and who Binance is. No, definitely not. I made an attempt to calm things by saying this. Sometimes people are quiet because they legally have to be. Until then, keep calm and carry on. It backfired. Really backfired. So then I casted this as a shitpost. So the keep calm and carry on didn't take, and speculation ramped up, Streisand effect style. So how about this? And I asked you all to please read it with my little, whimsical emojis in mind. Maybe what they're really doing is getting ready to launch a Farcaster token, and they're going to launch it on Clanker, and they're going to use Quotient. So only those who cast quality content, not written by AI or bots, that contribute to conversational liquidity will be rewarded. So you all should really work hard to cast really good content until instructed otherwise, so that we have better things to talk about. And I did add a disclaimer, because y'all are crazy, that this is not financial advice, not legal advice, and I know nothing, and it should be taken as a shitpost. And also, there is no token. I love you. There is no token. We love you. But also,
I know, but it could be.
But what happened was, I noticed yesterday was all of a sudden, people started posting a lot better quality content. I don't think there's causation here, but I'm not sure. So if any of you took that as gospel, there is no token, but also keep doing it, because I appreciate the better quality content. So, whatever gets you there works for me. What if, no, the question is why?
I think we need to not prey on people's desperation and hope for
there's no
free
token.
money to rain from the sky.
There's no token.
But it is fun to stir gossip. I don't know. A week ago, I was like, we're not talking about this.
Fine. Yeah.
I love how I've completely turned. It only took a week, but a week ago I was like, we're going to be above this. We're not doing gossip. We're not starting rumors. And after a week of silence, I'm like, nah, it's kind of fun.
When I posted the first thing of like, oh, they're being quiet, maybe because they legally have to be, I had DMs from people. I was like, I know nothing. Zero. I'm using critical thinking skills. We had these back in the 80s. It's something,
a week ago.
Like that's it. I know nothing. I have no real information, but you guys should definitely tune into GM Farcaster all the time because we will definitely have the information when we have it. This from Matt Lee, and I thought this was hilarious. History will remember how you acted during the Great Merkel Silence of 2026.
No, it won't. There's no such thing as memories anymore. Everything is forgotten within 24 hours.
That's true. And then did you see this post from Six that broke everyone's brain?
Yes, of course. Of course I did.
Yeah, I'm not even going to read it because it's nonsensical words where everybody, including me, and the replies are going, what are you saying? And it was just, I don't know what he was doing, but Logonaut.
He was word salading.
He was word salading.
You remember like the thing people used to do with the autocorrect? Like you'd start typing a sentence and you only complete it based on the words that come up in your...
And that's what he did? That would make sense.
I don't know if that's what he did, but that's what it sounded like. It's like just a bunch of words.
Like, what are you doing? And I like this from Logonaut. Alex, I'll take things E.E. Cummings might write if he were a crypto bro having a stroke for 500. It's like, yeah, that's what it sounded like. But go check that out because it was pretty funny. Okay, couple more things from our builders. Whoops. Couple more things from builders. Whoops, maybe. This was from our winner of our auction. So we are now doing an auction with Late Night on Base for our opportunity to share a cast on the show. And we do reserve the right to refuse if it's something too scammy, too crazy, too whatever. I had a little pause on this one, I got to tell you. So I did some digging to make sure we knew who the team was, and we did. So that was cool. So they said, hey, can you tell us who's the team behind the project? And one of them was 0x Mentalist, who was, if you guys were for anyone who was at Basecamp, was the illusionist, I guess I'll call them, who made Jesse appear. And it was very cool. Anyway, this is called Lotry. Lotry is the first limited loss lottery experiment. We put lotteries on a bonding curve so you can trade them while trying to win the pot. This video takes you through everything you need to know. We're clanking our platform token Lotry today, it looks like. The first daily Lotry goes live on Lotry.fund mini app at 9:30 p.m., 4 hours after launch. May luck forever be in your favor. I am going to NFA the heck out of this. I know very little. I do the team. They did list who the team members are. You can go check that out in this, in the thread that we're going to put in the show notes so that you can make your own decision here. But very, excited to see some builders building something cool. And I do like the little logo because it's cute. It's a cute little thing. So there you go. And thanks for bidding. And we'll have another auction up for Friday up soon. And we usually started in the $20 range in various tokens. Today's was in Habs. So the Haberdashery sponsors us on Wednesdays. So our Wednesday auctions will be in Habs. Moving on, a couple more things. Thank you, Quotient. I was able to claim about $50 something and better from the Quotient leaderboard. I love this leaderboard. It is my favorite leaderboard. So it is my new favorite leaderboard. And I ended up at number 4 this week, and I love that. So over this next week, the leaderboard rewards featuring over $900 in minted merch presented by Minted Merch are now live. The top 50 performers will split rewards when the campaign concludes next Tuesday. Stake 25 in minted merch to unlock 2x reward boost. Make sure to add the leaderboard mini app to be eligible for rewards. Also, if you look through the leaderboard, I'm like, this feels like good quality. I feel like it's picking up. I mean, I might be a tad biased, but I feel like it's picking up. Like where we had previous problems with leaderboards where you could feel it was very much gamed by people you'd never heard of. This feels a little bit more like it's hitting the right notes. So Thank you, Ruminations and Quotient. This from Kenny. Hey, Grok, what was the coolest thing accomplished by a DAO in the last year? And this was about the degendao and degen doing the amazing Guinness Book of World Records for the most kickflips in 1 minute. So that was pretty cool. And that was in response, I think, related to Vitalik's other cast about we need more DAOs. And that was very cool. And again, today is sponsored by Haberdashery, which is also degendao. So thank you to them. They're doing cool stuff. This from Deployer. We're rolling out daily bets right on the timeline, powered by Polymarket. All you have to do is comment on the threads if you are a banker club holder. You can play around with this over on Twitter to help Deployer test it out, but something kind of fun, new. And it's really just like, is ETH going up or down? Is Solana going up and down? And they're doing some testing right now. So go check that out. This from, Real Genuine Mo. I think it is. Is it Real Genuine or it's Mo? Sonar is now a full Farcaster client. Another client. With Farcaster and base apps prioritizing tokens and trading, there's a need for more social and content-focused clients. Sonar gives you a clean interface to experience protocol prioritizing content, media, and discovery. Sign with Farcaster account to check your following feed, notifications and interact with posts, media gallery for views, users and channels, custom pin feeds coming soon, global ban list for spammy accounts, historical posting, stats for users, global Farcaster stats, fully open source. And so check it out and see how it is. I have not checked this one out yet. This one is new. So there's only so many things I can do. Lastly, or I think this is lastly, maybe. Yes, before I get over to Cassie. Rainbow, it's official. We're taking a snapshot for the RNBW airdrop on Monday, January 26th at 4:20. Of course, Mike Damaris is picking 4:20 p.m. Eastern. You still have a chance to accumulate Rainbow points before the Rainbow airdrop on February 5th. And this is different. They set this up very differently. So if you're not paying attention to this, like it has like a weird mechanic where there's a little bit of, I don't want to say the word equity, but kind of involved. And it's really, there's a foundation that's is going to be holding some of the tokens. So it's just kind of a different approach here and very interesting. All right. Adrian, did I miss anything before we jump in to chat with Cassie? I'm very excited.
No.
You ready?
Yeah.
One more thing. I forgot one more thing. One more quick thing. We have a new website. Go check it out. gmfarcaster.com. Adrian spent a lot of time on it. And it's very cool. And I like it a lot. And she did a great job. So go check it out. Lots of cool stuff here.
Actually didn't spend a lot of time on it because AI is amazing and was able to get this done in a few days.
But you still did. It's very cool. So go check that out. And we're going to bring up Cassie and we're going to be talking about Quorum Mobile Wallet. We're going to be talking about Quilibrium. If you haven't checked this out yet, you're going to learn lots more right now. So without further ado, let's bring her up. Welcome, Cassie Heart, to GM Farcaster. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time coming. I know you guys have wanted me on for a bit, but schedules have been rough, and I usually am not awake this early.
Well, we appreciate you. And this is us doing a later show, which is a bigger part. It's amazing to have you here. We did get a chance to chat with you at FarCon last year, but that was before you had Quorum Mobile. That was before a lot of the stuff that you've done over the past almost a year, probably 9 months or so. So where should we start here, Adrian? Should we start with what is Quilibrium? Quilibrium, or how to say it? Or you want to start with Quorum Mobile? Where do you want to start? Either you pick.
Let's start with Quilibrium.
All right.
And yeah, because I feel like that's a nice foundation. And then
setting the foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start there.
Onto Quorum.
Sure. So I'll give you like a really rapid fire history. About 8 years ago at this point, I was working on a stream that was basically just teaching people how to code. Obviously, this is before we all got AI teachers that could tell us basically everything we wanted to know. But back in those days, people had to code by hand. And at that time, a lot of people had questions like, hey, how do I build applications like somebody would who's working at a senior staff, et cetera, level at Facebook or Amazon, et cetera. And so I was running this stream teaching people how to build applications at that kind of scale. Basically, like, how can you handle millions of simultaneous users? How do you architect an application in that way? And I like to do things by example because example is generally the best way to learn. And so I was building out this, a couple of different examples, but eventually it settled on something that was kind of like Discord. And at the time, Discord was going through some interesting social crises, two different things. One, there was rumors of an acquisition, which sounds kind of familiar right now and is kind of funny. But the other is that they were actively suppressing a community, specifically the Wall Street Bets subreddit had gotten banned from Discord. And they were banned because they used certain terms linguistically that didn't align with everyone. And it caused a lot of conflict and strife because, like, these people didn't mean anything that was actually like awful by it. They weren't attacking others. Like, they were calling each other certain things that don't tend to fly on most broadcasts, but that was just an in-group terminology. And it really struck a chord with me because the idea of a social platform deciding to be an arbiter of speech is generally, it's something that doesn't rub me the right way because speech, it has different, in every single culture, there's a different meaning of potentially even the same words, but also the idea that one company in one small portion of the world getting to dictate how others speak is patently absurd to me. And so the example that I was diving into by building a new Discord was, what if we had a way to, affect the levers of control such that we didn't have to worry about that? And so the first thing, obviously, is your easiest way to solve that is to not be a nuisance to, the hosting providers. They care about what they're hosting in terms of content, and so you have to be the enforcer of that content. If you're complying with App Store rules, which Farcaster's had its own growing pains with, if you are on Amazon and the people who are using your app are politically inconvenient, they've been known to pull the plug. And so first, add encryption. Okay. Well, turns out that's actually a difficult problem. If you look at Signal, if you look at WhatsApp, there's always a limit to how many people can join a group. And the reason is because the way that they are doing their group message encryption is limited. You have to encrypt the same message you're sending to every single member of the group. And that's computationally expensive. So they cap it at 1,000, call it a day. But I'd been working in cryptography for a very long time at this point. I'd been doing novel crypto systems for productionized purposes of various kinds. And eventually, through this whole process, I was also working at Coinbase. And at Coinbase, I was getting the mobile retail app to work with our MPC tech. And MPC stands for multi-party computation. And the purpose of that at Coinbase was to make the Web3 wallet that they put in the retail app for about a year and then canceled, because that seems to be Coinbase's MO, is to launch a product and then rug it after about a year. And what I learned from that experience there is that MPC is a very powerful tool. It can actually let you do a lot of things that normally you didn't think you could with multiple people at the same time. And so by consequence, I adapted the MPC approach to group chats. I created a new encryption mechanism for group chats called triple ratchet, which is an extension of Signal's double ratchet algorithm. And the idea was to change how the back and forth conversation pattern worked so that you didn't actually have to encrypt the message to each and every user. Okay, great. Came up with that. Turns out Signal also now created a new algorithm they're calling triple ratchet, totally unrelated. And
stolen. should have trademarked it.
A simple Google search would have told them. But they're not the ones who created it. They created double ratchet. So
wait, okay.
I was like, I think I could not interrupt you and just let you talk for an hour.
I totally could. Yeah,
but
loving this, loving every minute of this.
Yeah, this is. Can I pause for 1 sec? And is there a way to explain to like a, at the level of like a smart high schooler? I like that was always like, the difference between like what triple ratchet is in terms of the mechanism. Like this is the first time I've heard either you or anyone describe kind of the limits of what makes encryption hard. And it kind of makes sense that you have to do kind of the end to end for when you have a group message. Is there a way to high level explain?
Yeah, so they use the term ratchet to refer
Hold
to...
on. I need to pause you guys right now because I thought the chat was trolling us, but they're not. Neynar is acquiring Farcaster. DWR just said. No, I'm not. I'm sorry. We need one small pivot because I didn't.
Breaking news.
Yeah, like we literally have breaking news. Dan, we told you to come on when you were going to do this. But I feel like we need to just pause for a second because then I have some questions for you, Cassie, around that because I'd like to understand it. Holy crap, we have Rish coming on Friday, I hope still. But let me just grab this cast from Dan. I saw everyone posting it in the chat and I honestly thought they were full of crap. So I needed to go check. But I want to circle back because I'm really loving everything she's talking about. And now I have to pause. Okay, so let's read this from Dan real quick and see what it means. Neynar is acquiring Farcaster. Over the next few weeks, we'll transfer ownership of the protocol contracts and code repositories, the Farcaster app, and Clanker to Neynar. They will run and maintain everything going forward. Some members of the Merkle team, Varun, and I will step back from day-to-day work on Farcaster and move on to something new. Okay, this is making a lot of sense. Rish, Manan, and the rest of the Neynar team have been building on Farcaster from the start. Neynar was one of the first Farcaster clients, and its infrastructure now powers much of the developer ecosystem. We think they are the right people to take over leadership of Farcaster, and they'll share their new builder-focused vision soon. This wasn't an easy decision. Farcaster and the people building on it mean a lot to us. We're proud of what our team built and what the community built alongside us. But after 5 years, it's clear Farcaster needs a new approach and leadership to reach its full potential. We're excited to see what Farcaster becomes under Neynar, and we're looking forward to this next chapter. Okay.
Did not have that on our conspiracy theories.
I actually did, but I didn't say it. I'm not Neynar, but I was thinking that things might get split. So in other words, that Dan and Varun might go off and do something else. And I think it's still Stripe. I'm going to be honest, but I'm not positive. And I have no information about that, but we'll see. But it might be over there. And that wouldn't surprise me. And then that the protocol might go somewhere else. Because that's actually one of the things I was going to ask Cassie about was if that happened, what, how does the protocol itself, continue without, if the team decided to go somewhere else, would, how would they do that from a technical perspective to at least continue the protocol? So anyway, Cassie, thoughts on this?
I'm gonna lob a spicy question grenade out into the ether. I'll be curious to hear what Rish has to say on Friday. But at least for Dan and Varun, I'm kind of curious what happened to we're working on this for the next 10 years.
That's a good question. That's an excellent question. We'll try and get that answer for you. Clip that. We can tell our little AI thing. Clip thing.
What the clip?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, 1 second while I jump into Rish's DMs to confirm he's still coming on Friday. He might be like, yeah, no. Really hope he still is. Anyway, okay. So I don't even know what to do here. Let's reset. There's not much more we can talk about there. We assume that we're still going to have Rish on Friday. We'll have a lot of questions for him then. We'll hopefully they'll have some, answers being produced, but at least we have, we know what's going on so we can stop the eternal speculation. And also, did nobody put a Polymarket up? I mean, come on, Polymarket, you just really let us down on that. Okay, backing up just a little bit to Quilibrium. Where were we? You were at Coinbase.
We were talking about
you were building a thing.
assets.
Also, by the way, you are really good at explaining this because I was really following along. We were at Triple Ratchet. That's where we were. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So the core concept behind what's called a cryptographic ratchet, which I believe was actually a term that Moxie Marlinspike, the original creator of Signal, I think he came up with the term. But like a basic ratchet, you use a ratchet, you can only rotate it one direction. When you push it backwards, you're not actually pushing it backwards, you're just getting more leverage. It only iterates the direction that it's configured to go. In the same way a cryptographic ratchet works, it does the same thing. Every single step that you do, every message that you send is advancing that ratchet forward in a way that the keys being generated with each call changes with every step. And that's a really powerful tool, because when you look at like classical cryptography, like just basic, like, we agree to some sort of key, whether it's a password or whatever, it's the same key every single time. So if somebody were to, for example, they were snooping on your conversations, and through some special kind of attack, maybe they gained access to your system, maybe they found a flaw in the way that keys were being generated, whatever it is, the moment they have that key, all messages, past and present, are now decryptable by the attacker. And so the purpose of a cryptographic ratchet is that it's constantly generating new key material, and each side is contributing their own key material so that the key used to encrypt the conversation is always moving. That way, if an attacker were to break in through a side channel, they might be able to get a message or two, but they're not going to be able to get the past and future conversation.
Okay. Is it necessarily then ephemeral? Like, like if we've been communicating using this, and I'm am I able to go back to past messages and decrypt them, like, and see those?
The trick with that systems like Signal use, they don't. There's no actual magic there. Basically, your device, usually your phone, is storing all of the message history, and they store it encrypted in a way that only when the app is actually live in memory are you able to see all your past messages. And that too is also important, because for example, say that, I used to present a hypothetical scenario, but we live in truly unprecedented times. And so at this point, let's say that you just happen to be involved politically with a group of people that have done nothing illegal whatsoever, but now you're, somebody of interest. And so they take your device and they try to read all the messages on it. Well, if it's encrypted at rest, they're going to need the key to access that. And most phones these days have what's called a secure enclave built into it. And it's basically just like a crypto wallet keeps track of your private keys and is the one responsible for managing it. It's responsible at a hardware level to manage the keys that encrypt data that lives on your phone. So if the phone is off, for example, there is no way, at least with iPhones, there is no way for even an experienced attacker to extract the keys necessary to decrypt the conversations.
Beautiful.
And so that comes back around to triple ratchet concept. Okay. Because double ratchet advances twice. There's two different cryptographic ratchets. The first is it advances the key, like the core ephemeral key. It in fact uses the same term. It advances the ephemeral key every time the other side responds. So in typical cryptography parlance, they use the names Alice and Bob to refer to two different participants. And so Alice sends a message, advances the first ratchet. Bob sends a message, advances the first ratchet. But at the same time, each message sent is advancing a second ratchet that's just iterating that key material from their side forward. And so there's a few other little tricks that makes it easy to handle things being sent out of order. Because obviously, if you get a message out of order, you need to know which key to apply to it. Otherwise, you won't decrypt anything. In fact, actually, the early days of Farcaster, we were still trying to get it just right. And if you remember, sending messages sometimes led to this message could not be decrypted. Yep. Yeah, that's what happens if you don't get it just right on how to handle out of order messages. And so the same problem exists for group chats. And so the way that Signal solved it was to just have 1,000 separate double ratchet sessions with all of the users, except it's 1,000 for you. It's, 1,000 factorial for everyone combined. So I came up with triple ratchet to solve that problem. Basically, instead of Bob as one of the ratchets, it's actually the entire group as a ratchet in a multi-party process simulating who Bob is. And then from that, you don't have to worry so much about the difficulties of scaling that out to thousands or millions of users. And that was the target I had in mind, is make this work for 1 million users in a single chat, because my North Star was the name's evading me, Midjourney. The Midjourney Discord was actually a record-breaking Discord. They had millions of users. Discord had to do so much engineering work on their back end just to make it even work, because there were just so many users sending messages. And so that was an incredible question to pose as a streaming or a stream, to show people how do you build at that scale? And on top of it, how do you build it at scale to work with encrypted messaging? But then there's the second problem. And the second problem is that, say that you become popular. Say that you become popular during a very contentious election. This isn't a hypothetical either. There was a social media platform that became very popular during the 2016 election. They were called Parler. And obviously, you can disagree with what people were primarily thinking on that platform. But the reality is that most people on any social media platform, regardless, most people were complying with the law. Nobody was saying anything particularly contentious. Maybe they were speaking their minds. Maybe they disagreed with certain people. But that's fine. That's how free speech works. You're supposed to be able to speak your mind, even if you're saying stupid stuff. And so Amazon was being pressured because Parler was a very hard right-leaning social media platform, and Amazon pulled the plug because they were politically inconvenient. And at that time, they had just reached their height. They were finally hitting their stride, getting a lot of users. They were in news because of how big the platform was growing, and it killed them. It just completely killed them.
I completely forgot about that. And I forgot about them. Honestly, they've been, sort of supplanted by different apps. So but I forgot when that happened, where Amazon pulled the plug. But I do remember having some conversations about that. That didn't seem you can disagree, but it didn't seem like the best approach. And I think that was another thing that kind of adds to if you go back in time, you don't even think about it, but you start to think about decentralized social sort of from those moments, but not really even putting the pieces together. They're sort of hanging in the back of your mind and you don't even realize it. So really interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't even unique to them either. At the time, there were other social media platforms that were, I'm not going to name them because I've spoken to their founders personally, and I don't think they want me to just say who they are on a live stream. But I spoke with a couple of other social media founders that were on the smaller stage at that time, because I was posting broadly about what I was building with this Discord clone. And it was resonating with them, because the thing that they were coming to the conclusion on is they too were in trouble. They saw what happened with Parler. They've even potentially gotten a few messages from Amazon about their terms of service policy and how they're somehow violating it, even if they really weren't. And so many of these people were coming to me saying, yeah, Amazon's our existential threat. If you find a way to solve that, would love to jump ship. And so that was some extreme validation, because these people were coming to me. I didn't necessarily know them personally, and being told that I'm building towards something that can solve a serious problem for them is valuable. And it was at that point, and I want to say it was about 2019 when I finally had things far enough that I was broadcasting it, that I realized I'm actually building something that has value beyond just being a Discord clone. And as I was trying to solve more and more problems, of course, the realization hits you okay, Amazon's the core problem here. How do you solve for hosting on the internet these days without Amazon? Because, running your own server infrastructure is not just annoying, it's expensive. Machines fail. You have to staff people in data centers to go fix it, or you have to pay a data center, but then they're the new lever of control that can be pressured into shutting you down. So at the end of the day, you need something that works in a decentralized context. And I've been in crypto a long time. I've been basically there since the beginning. I was on the MetaMask mailing list when the Bitcoin white paper came out. And so I got to thinking about how do I solve this problem with crypto? But the problem is crypto sucks. For scale, it really sucks. Bitcoin only processes, single to double digits of transactions a second at best. Even Ethereum was still pretty slow at that time. And even now it's like, what, I think their peak was like 67 transactions per second. And you do a lot of trade-offs, and Vitalik's talked about this a lot as well, but you do a lot of trade-offs with decentralization in order to provide scalability. That's why Solana is able to do more transactions per second, because they're trading off. Like, if you want to participate as a validator on their network, you have to, spend thousands and thousands of dollars a month on really expensive hardware just to participate. And then you also have to deal with like latency problems, the fact that their validators are all lined up in sequence in advance, and they're subject to denial of service attacks, all these problems. Okay, so crypto has some interesting ideas, but the current structure of crypto is not suited to work for that. And so,
really quick question before you go any further, though. The L2s, and I'm not even going to talk about the L3s because I don't think we've seen one that's been super successful. It seems like they've helped some of that, but I'm sure there are other problems they may have caused. So where do you, in terms of like where they're at in that sort of thinking, how are they doing for your
L2s are making an interesting trade-off. Like as was joked earlier, even on this broadcast, Base has a single sequencer. But not every L2 has a single sequencer, to the credit of Polygon, for example, although they might contest that they're not an L2, but whatever the case, there are plenty of other networks that are L2s legitimately that have more than one sequencer. However, they are still making certain trade-offs. And the way that they're making that trade-off is assuming that by inheriting the security of the L1, as they say, that makes it sufficiently decentralized. And I really don't like the term sufficiently decentralized. It's a very strong crutch. I like actual decentralization, systems that, as Vitalik put, can survive the walkaway test. And the reality is that no L2 at this time can survive the walkaway test. And so the problem has to be solved holistically. And so I was looking through like the just sheer volume of research. And the sheer volume of research that came out through crypto is there's a lot of powerful tools that can let you essentially compress a lot of data and a lot of suppositions about that data. Like you're saying, like, I have X number of coins, I'm spending these coins by sending them to somebody. I can basically attest to all of these things using cryptographic proofs rather than actually putting the transaction itself on there. And then through some of these schemes for these proofs, you can actually compress them all together into a single statement.
Let me ask you a quick question. In terms of when you're talking about the research that you're looking at, are there certain pieces of research that you found to be more helpful or that have kind of driven your direction? And who's doing that research? Who should we be looking at for that kind of information?
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting thing, is that like the Ethereum Foundation has, they have researchers on staff. There's a lot of people who have been nerd sniped by Ethereum as a project, especially, and have contributed their own research, their own proposals. In fact, one great example of this, a lot of people have different opinions about MEV, on whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing. But there's a decent number of people who thinks it's a bad thing and have given different proposals over the years on how to solve it. And so God, I'm going to get the year wrong on this, I swear, but around 2020, I think, there was a proposal to use this paper called RPM, which stands for Random Permutation Mixnets, basically just taking a list of transactions and performing this cryptographic shuffle on it that's efficient. And the way that shuffle works produces an output of a series of transactions that everyone can transparently agree to was properly shuffled, but it essentially destroys MEV because you can't guarantee a sandwich attack can occur. You essentially have dictated that the ordering of the messages is something deterministic, but not something that can be interfered with. And we actually use RPM. We were the first implementation of RPM on Qualibrium for our mixnet.
Cool.
The value prop of RPM, however, is that, or the value prop of any of these pieces of research, however, is that they did the research. They didn't do the implementation. Right. And cryptographers really love to create papers that explain their big ideas. And
academics too.
They might even have like a little bit of sample code that gives performance values, but it's not actually a real implementation. It's just doing enough of the work to simulate that implementation so that it can give you numbers that you can confidently show at your paper presentation to say, look how fast we are and look what we can achieve, but nobody actually implemented it. And I did the same thing for RPM. Like I implemented the paper and got really frustrated because their example was junk. But that's basically how it worked. I looked at all these people getting nerd sniped, took the best ideas that I could possibly combine, and created what has become Qualibrium from it. And if you look at it from like a 10,000 foot view, you can actually kind of see that it looks like a little bit, if you squint, it looks like the L1, L2, L3 ecosystem merged into a single protocol. Because at different tiers of the protocol, at the L1 level, if you will, we don't have the raw statements, like the transactions that are going through. We just have proofs about those transactions. And then at the L2 level, you have the actual proofs that are being generated for those transactions. And then at the deeper L3 level, you have the real data that is behind those transactions. And so we utilize the techniques that work in crypto to provide privacy, work to provide succinct proofs, but then we combine it with the research from database development over half a century at this point for distributed databases to do the hard, heavy lifting of data availability and solving those problems. And through that architecture, we're able to essentially hallucinate out, if you will, all the cloud services that exist today. So Amazon Web Services, their core offerings of S3, which is their file hosting service, SNS, their notification service, SQS, their queuing service, all of their different products, we're able to synthesize using this core platform as the basis in which we can provide those. But the cool thing is now you don't have to worry about US East 1 is down. It's a decentralized product. You don't have to worry about a government subpoena shutting you down. The network is fully distributed and data is replicated across peers on all geographies. You don't have to worry about whether or not the language you speak in particular is something of concern, because it might not be in another jurisdiction. And at the same time, from the standpoint of compliance, concerns from, look, IPFS has to deal with this. People will put things on IPFS that are not great. Node operators are given the freedom and flexibility to choose what they're replicating as well. And so from that entire ecosystem of participants, you're able to sufficiently hallucinate out. And I use the term hallucinate specifically because there is an old paper from Nick Szabo who suggested the idea of what's called a God protocol, which is a protocol that's able to essentially hallucinate out all of the different servers of the world you could possibly ever need. And from that, you're able to essentially realize any service that Amazon produces, roughly. And so that's what I've been spending 8 years of my life doing. And about a year ago, I decided to revisit, well, I guess a year and a couple months, I decided to revisit the original proposal. What was I building? A decentralized Discord. Okay. So because I had built out all the tooling necessary to do that on Qualibrium, I launched Quorum a year ago, which was a rename. It was originally called Howler. Not very important, but
I was like, Quorum? What's been a year? I was going to say, okay.
Quorum has been a year.
Wow.
Quorum on web has been a year. Quorum Mobile was our Christmas surprise last year. And obviously, when you're dealing with the App Store approval process, even for test flight, it gets a little bit delayed. So the mobile app didn't actually end up out in people's hands until early January. But Quorum Mobile has now been out for, I want to say about two and a half weeks. And it's gotten pretty good adoption. And one of the things that we wanted to do with that is to demonstrate how we're able to compose with other protocols. And so Quorum Mobile was also a Farcaster client. And that was one of the things that was really important to us, because one of the things I found interesting about the Farcaster ecosystem, and the reason why I stick around here in the way that I do, despite not even working for Merkle anymore, or not necessarily agreeing with the latest pivot to traders, is that Farcaster has one of the most genuine communities that is curious, is engaged, and is also typically early adopters. And they're really excited early adopters. And so it's like the perfect storm to launch a product and see and get real feedback from people who will actually tell you without necessarily worrying about like the mom test issue, which is like that people will just give you kind feedback because they think that's what you want to hear. I have gotten so much really good, candid feedback from Farcaster on all of the things that I've built that it's a very powerful force multiplication for launching products, even if there's only 37 of us.
Yes, all
Sure.
37 are pretty good about giving constructive feedback too, and like specific feedback and things like that, not just it's great or I hate this or it sucks. Like, well, what sucks about it? You know, like be specific. And I do think the other thing I've noticed about you is your lean into creative ways to test things. So I got that from the Hunger Games in the group chat. For the moment, if for those who may remember that, there'll be very few. But also you did something similar with it just at Christmas with the Hexmas. It was Hexmas,
Yep.
right? The mini app. By the way, what are we doing with the reindeer? I don't understand. I still don't know. I'm still waiting. But like, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what exactly were you testing? Like, what was your thinking there? Because I found that, you know, very interesting, and it was fun to like play around with, but like fully understanding like what was going on sort of in the background would be interesting.
So this is, I'm going to say something kind of controversial, but this is kind of one of the problems of crypto is that getting your first users is difficult. And so what a lot of teams will do is they'll propose an airdrop in order to obtain their first users. And what you really end up getting is these farms in third world countries of people with like armies of phones at their disposal to try to simulate actual users. This is something that we also kind of noticed at Farcaster. Like a lot of people said, oh man, there's so many bots on this platform. And the reality is that, and Varun would contest that. He'd say that, no, they're real users, and they are real users. But the problem is that they're also not. What they're doing is they're operating these farms that are running, you know, hundreds of phones that have like a single control interface, and they will take in like a post, put it through ChatGPT to generate some kind of response that they think might be meaningful, and generate 50 variants of it, and then go and post it on every single one of those phones. So when you look at the data, those are real users, like in terms of what you measure for realness. Like it's not world ID realness, but it's realness. And that's the kind of problem that I saw happen even worse once Base came on board. And the issue...
And that's how WoW was born.
When Base came on board,
this is
they did one of the most awful
that was
things.
Incredible. Yeah. Yes, I agree. Go ahead.
Because I worked at Coinbase. I know how they operate. I know that they talk through every single thing, every single outcome, and the way in which every user might interpret things. So they announced, you know, we're exploring the idea of a network token. And they announced that with no information about how they would determine this, no information about what they would do. And the reality is Coinbase is a very highly regulated company. And so if they wanted to do an airdrop, for example, the amount of compliance that they would have to do is so absurd that it's essentially guaranteeing they're not going to do an airdrop. But if they tell people they're exploring the idea of a network token right after they present their social product, you're going to get so many people, especially from third world countries where they've already built out the infrastructure to simulate these users. They will jump on your product, they will juice up your daily active user numbers, and it will look like you had a runaway hit product. Meanwhile, you're burying all the users in spam. So you've exploited basically third world countries to hack, like, you know, essentially hack your user count on something they will never see outcome from. And I don't like that.
That was really, and I kept saying that as well. It's like, you know, just just posting on Base app or just replying nonsensically is not going to get you anything. Like if there's any kind of airdrop, it's going to be tied to actual, you know, use of the chain, not just use of the app. But also you're 100% right. The like compliance, it's messy. And I was in a session at Basecamp with the attorney, like the in-house counsel dude, and it's like they're nowhere close of figuring this out. Like, and they're also not going to do anything until clarity goes. So who was it? Sorry,
was it Paul Graywall?
No. It was the Base app council.
Okay.
Not Paul.
I was about to say, I love
Paul's too busy. He's busy.
Yeah, he is.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but they're thinking about this, but they're also thinking about it. They're thinking about governance. So they're looking at it as a governance token. So it's going to be, if they do it, it's going to be different. Ben, thank you. Yep, that's it. And it was, interesting to hear that thought process, but they're also going to wait for Market Structure and Clarity Act to get any, before they do anything, because it's too much risk. So you're 100% on there. And it's, and by the way, so if we use Quorum Mobile, we won't see the cat in our replies meowing or.
I should really just like this one time, just filter that user. Oh my God.
Yeah, please do.
At the very least,
I think you'll see an influx of very high quality users on Quorum Mobile as soon as they get hit with the cat again.
Yeah, no, I don't like the idea of silencing users, even if they're super obnoxious. But what I do believe is that people have the right to curate their own feeds. And so we honor blocks. Like if you have blocked somebody on the Farcaster app, we honor that block on Quorum. That's
huge because that hasn't been the case on some of the other clients. So that is huge, actually.
Well, there's a reason for that. And it's kind of, it comes back around to the whole decentralized social or sufficiently decentralized social problem. And what that essentially amounts to is, yes, there is a protocol. There was hubs and then there was Snapchain. But at the end of the day, the protocol only holds casts, reactions, recasts, the replies, and a few other things. But it doesn't have blocks. And there's a reason for that, because you don't want to publish a block list that would potentially get abused like it does on Blue Sky. But there's ways you can do that and still preserve privacy. There's no DMs on the protocol, despite my proposing that 2 years ago. And Quorum is basically using that proposal from 2 years ago. It's made a few advancements.
Why did they choose not to do that? Was it a financial reason, or was it just a different perspective, or was it a building reason?
So what
do you think? I'm just curious.
I'm trying to be parliamentarian here.
And you're doing very good with it. I appreciate it tremendously.
I respect Anna Varun a lot. Like they are very focused, very passionate founders. They really they have an idea in mind and they pursue it ruthlessly, and it's great. Like that is a kind of drive and focus that is very hard to find. And it's no surprise that they were very well capitalized because they've had a long history of doing that. But the one thing that I always disagreed with was they like to be focused on what is the smallest next step forward that can reach us closer to our goals. And that can be a good thing, but in a decentralized protocol context, that leads to a lot of compromises that you're making that ossify to the point where, when I was there, it was, 2024, we were talking about, okay, direct CAS on protocol, that'll be 2025. And then 2025, okay, direct CAS on protocol, that'll be 2026. And it's clear that when something can't be iterated on a small basis, it has to be a very whole cloth, elaborate design in order to make it work. That was not prioritized as much, because to be fair, when you only have, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of daily active users, you are effectively a science project, as Dan has said many times. And so the problem is you still have to have those steps forward in actually decentralizing the protocol, because otherwise you end up in the state where the protocol is anemic and you have fat clients and fat servers that are making that protocol actually useful. This is also the same problem that happens to Ethereum. There's no built-in indexing on Ethereum. You have to build your own custom indexers for every single application. And those types of things are the decisions that informed how we built Qualibrium. The way that we store data on the protocol has attached schema that is required. It, one, validates the content coming through, conforms to that schema, but two, essentially gives you the automatic indexing that you need in order to avoid having to have this centralization force of, Infura, Alchemy, et cetera, as RPCs. And you can see that same kind of design pattern when we released our fork, not like a protocol fork, but our fork of the Snapchain protocol, where HyperSnap is essentially a Q-powered Snapchain node that gives you further indexing. And so it's kind of a funny thing. It's interesting that Neynar acquired Farcaster, but when we forked Snapchain, we actually exposed all of Neynar's APIs as like open source APIs on Hypersnap. So you can get Neynar for free if you just use a Hypersnap node.
That seems hard. But for those who are technically inclined.
Okay, wait, Cassie, and
Good.
is Hypersnap an extension of Snapchain?
Yeah, that's correct.
Not a fork.
Well, it's a fork of their project. Like in terms
Okay.
of Git, it's a fork. In terms of like protocol
Implementation,
semantics, it's not a fork. I don't like the idea of forking protocols. It generally doesn't work. If you look at every single protocol in the industry that has ever been forked, the fork does not survive. It always ends up with the main
Shout
dev
out
project.
nouns.
Which,
shout out love to nouns on their forks.
That also kind of leads to an interesting like social commentary as well. Like these protocols, they say that even the governance is decentralized, but in reality, like it does tend to stick to the core teams. Like the core teams don't ever seem to lose control.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is still a challenge for sure. Okay, so let's move to Quorum Mobile is now available. Is it still beta? Do you still can anyone use it, or is it still by request is it still, it's still in test flight? Yes, no.
It's still in test flight. It's an open beta though. Somebody registered farcaster.pro as a domain, and they made it redirect to our test flight. So if you just go to HTTP farcaster.pro, it will take you to the test flight, and you can onboard yourself.
And you don't know who did that?
No, I have no idea who did that.
That's funny.
Android beta, Google's very strict with their Play beta services. Like it's actually really hard to onboard people with that. Like they don't allow all they don't even allow all email addresses. Like a lot of people who are in the queue are people who use Proton Mail and other privacy services, and they won't let you enroll Proton Mail addresses for the Google Play beta. So we have the test flight. We have the Google Play beta, which allows up to only 100 testers, which is lame. And we also have a standalone APK that we link to with every single release that we make. So that if people want to sideload Quorum onto their Android phone, they can totally do so.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Okay, so what's next? So you talked about like how this started with this idea of this decentralized Discord. It's kind of, morphed a little bit. Well, what else are you thinking about that would build on top of Quilibrium?
I mean, we're after it all. Like our core mission is to secure every bit of traffic on the internet. And so I know it's a big, lofty, ambitious goal, and like it sounds insane, but like, it wasn't that long ago that when Amazon came along with Amazon Web Services and we're like, hey, why bother with like running your own equipment on racks? Just use S3 to host your data. Just use Lambda to discreetly invoke your functions. You don't need to worry about servers. It's serverless now. Well, it's not really serverless, but that's our marketing. And their initial barrier, their hurdle they had to get over was convincing people that they could be trusted with being the host of their data, their services, etc. And from a business standpoint, they've seemingly done well to avoid most of the things that they could potentially have lost trust on, minus whenever it's politically inconvenient, and minus whenever they've had to hand over data due to subpoenas, regardless of the legality of the claims or the jurisdiction. There's a lot of companies that, for example, they will not host on Amazon because they know that if push comes to shove, they will have their servers seized by court order, even if it doesn't apply to their jurisdiction. They had to do some work with the GDPR compliance in Europe, but even then, if it's a national security concern, do you really think the U.S. government won't be able to get servers from Europe from Amazon with as tight of a dealing that they have? Seems unlikely. And so that comes back around to one of the value propositions of crypto, which is, Google's motto for a long time was don't be evil, but crypto's motto is can't be evil. And so when you design decentralized internet architecture in a way that is resilient to censorship, that is resilient to compromise, that is resilient to intrusion on the privacy of data, you create what is the true can't be evil architecture for the internet. And so while I do believe that, like, yes, there's people that are going to be hosting on Q, there's already people who have been building their experiments on our private betas of these services on Q, we will have to go through that same growing pain. We will have to like get past the hurdle that people have with the trust barrier. Regardless of whether the cryptography itself is sound, you still have to get over the social trust barrier. But I believe we will do that.
Amazing. Adrian, what else you got?
This has been incredible, Cassie. I love.
You are such a good teacher, by the way. You
Thanks.
really. So I thought that I didn't.
Oh, sorry.
When you were talking about that, it's like you were starting there by teaching, doing these videos and talking to people. And I was like, I feel that. Like, I feel that experience in you as you explain this, because I understood it, which I always get a little nervous because I've sat in sessions with you and they're always really good. And one of the ones that stands out in my mind was FarCon Venice, when you talked about the history of the computer and just like and it was so good. I just really enjoyed it. And I feel like you just are really good about sort of tying things together in a way that makes a lot of sense. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I feel like cryptography gets a bad rap in terms of being difficult to understand, because one, it's a lot of like advanced number theory, lots of crazy mathematics. But the thing is that you really only have to communicate two things to make any cryptography understandable by anyone, which is one, at the end of the day, this is adding and multiplying numbers. It doesn't have to actually be that complicated if they're not implementing the cryptography themselves. Like, yes, there are security concerns. Yes, there are things you have to be mindful of. But if you're just describing how it actually works, you don't have to worry so much about the number theory involved. And the other side is, if you're not able to explain that in simple terms, then you probably don't understand it enough to be coding it.
Clip that. Stop coding it if you don't understand it. It really, like, I feel like I have a much better understanding than I did just 30 minutes ago. So I really appreciate that. Adrian, what did we miss? What else did you want to ask Cassie about before we
that
wrap?
was it. I just the Quorum Mobile app just kind of flooded the feed whenever it launched 2 weeks ago, and I was so happy to see it. And it really, I think your reputation is so strong, and you don't get it overnight. Clearly, just hearing you talk about your story, it seemed your life's work of 8 years, and I know you don't get people coming out of the feed praising you and immediately wanting to use Quorum overnight, and it's not an accident. So congratulations. And Prof and I we always love having you. QM, we like having you on and get updates, and this has been great.
Yeah, when you have just feel free anytime. We'd love having you back here to talk about what you're building, because you're just so prolific in what you're doing, and I just really appreciate you and love.
Yes, we didn't talk about the name service, did we?
Oh, the name service. Yeah, Quill name service, QNS.
So QNS, this comes back around to the identity problem. Like on Farcaster, we have F names, but F names are actually just a smart contract on OP mainnet that if you obtain an F name, you have paid the registration fee, and that registration fee goes to Merkle Manufactory's account. It doesn't go to something that directly relates to the protocol. And our point of view is that that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a intermediary manager of names, but at the same time, F names aren't very composable. Yes, you could argue, yes, you can read the proofs from OP mainnet in order to prove identity, but the proof basis of how those work is a very long, complicated flow to actually prove that somebody owns a name. On Q, the way that we do things, everything is provable with a very succinct statement. It takes only 148 bytes of data to actually succinctly prove anything on the network. But our idea is that these names don't need to be directly linked to a given social media platform. It doesn't have to be just Quorum. It doesn't have to be Farcaster. It doesn't have to be any one thing. This is something that can be universal. And I also am very anti-extraction. I don't like rent. I don't think that the idea of rent on a protocol is reasonable or sound. And so our proposal with QName service was that On all Q products, like Q Inc. products at least, but anybody that we're partnered with that's building around this as well, like they're using this as well. Any Q product, if you have a Q name, it should integrate fine. It should be easy to support. It should be a unique identifier that also preserves your privacy in the sense that any information that you're wanting to give, like how do you contact me through encrypted messaging? How do you pay me? This is information that should be optional for disclosure. And so with that same proof basis mechanism, you're able to succinctly prove to somebody, yes, this is my key in which you can pay me. Yes, this is my key in which you can contact me. But at the same time, if I don't want to give you that information, the only thing you know is this name.
That's great. That's really good. By the way, yeah, you have quite the Q army out there. Yeah, we got some big fans in the chat. And that's really cool. I love the way you're thinking about this. And it's what, like, in terms of like, if people want to learn more, get more involved, they can obviously go to farcaster.pro and jump on from the Quorum side. But what else, like if they are interested in, I don't know, running a node or something along those lines, is what are some other opportunities for people to get more involved on the larger Quilibrium protocol level, I guess is the question.
So our protocol is at github.com/Quilibrium network/monorepo. I guess some things never leave me, like work at Coinbase monorepo, work at Farcaster monorepo, but that's the core protocol. Quorum is also open source. We don't believe in the idea of having anything that deals with keys not be open source. That's not okay. So Quorum -desktop for the web app and desktop app, it's also able to be run through Electron. And then Quorum -mobile for the mobile app. If you're wanting to work on the Hypersnap amended Snap Chain client, that's the Hypersnap project. Quorum
Is that right?
desktop, not
Dash.
Quorum.
Oops, sorry. Dash. Sorry.
But yeah. Like there's lots of ways to get involved by working on that. If you want to build on Q, we have docs at docs.quilibrium.com. We do also have Q console. I said yesterday, and this is something that I know a lot of the people in the audience that are from the Q community are going to harp on, because I'm notorious for saying today, and because life or other things get in the way. Like right now, we're waiting for Apple's approval for Quorum Mobile for the update that has the wallet. So I said yesterday it'd be today, and now I'm still waiting for Apple. But through this week, at the very least, you'll be seeing the updates to Quorum Mobile. You'll be seeing our AWS compatible services, the first of our offerings. There's free tiers that are very generous. We're happy to extend credits for people who are building and needing more support and more ability to test things out before they're willing to pay. There's lots of different opportunities. Yeah, Q's Discord is very helpful as well.
Q's Discord. Okay.
Really powerful community there at discord.gg/Quilibrium.
Quilibrium. Okay.
Obviously,
and is it Quilibrium did you say Quilibrium.com as like the main site for?
Right. That's correct. Yeah.
Like, okay, great. Amazing. Oh, hi, Bias. I didn't know that was you.
We miss you.
Nice to see you. We miss you. But maybe he's wandering around on Quorum and Quilibrium, so that's cool. All right. Anything else, Adrian, that we might have missed? There's a lot. I'm just so excited to see everything that's going on. And I feel like, so when Vitalik posted about decentralized social and his, thinking there today, I did tag you in the replies. Like I tagged a few of the other clients too, but I mean, it seems to me like that would be his jam. Like he would you got to check this out. So I just tagged him and I tagged the channel because I wasn't sure exactly where else to send him to. But I do think in terms of the culture and the vibe, it like really seems to gel in that direction for him. So hopefully we'll see more people checking it out. All right, Adrian, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but.
Oh, I didn't have anything.
Oh, all right. It's been amazing. I'm so glad you were here. Sorry we had a little, announcement interrupt us. I apologize.
Honestly, I just think it's very funny. I kept replying to people who are saying, "Oh, when Coinbase acquires Farcaster," and I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Didn't have any info about it. Like, I didn't. The Neynar news was a bit of a surprise to me as well. But like, I knew that if anything was going to happen, it certainly wasn't going to be Coinbase buying them.
I didn't think so. Like, I thought that at first, and the more we talked about it, I went, you know what? It's not going to be them. And I actually had commented a couple of times today on similar casts. But it makes sense for it to be, more of basically a community takeover, but not really, a Neynar takeover.
But I think congrats to Dan and Varun.
Purple didn't even get a chance to bid.
Purple's treasury is a little too small for that situation.
They got about 3 city.
Yeah, not quite enough. But I think, we'll hopefully have some more conversations on Monday. But it also, the thing that I was getting a little concerned about was like, okay, let's see what happens with the protocol, because as I'm watching all Quorum Mobile and the Degen app and Sofa and Uno and all these different clients popping up that are really good. Zapper's, you want to do trading, go Zapper's great. That are incorporating Farcaster. I was like, I feel like they were just getting started and I didn't want them to get rugged. So I'm glad. I feel like, okay, that concern is sort of off the table for now. And that makes me feel a little better. You had a couple, I know what I wanted to ask you. You had a couple FIPs that you had put through. Did anything finalize with those, or are they still sort of just hanging for now?
Yeah, that's kind of the tricky question. So I know that they are doing the work necessary to add our Hypersnap node into the consensus set.
Okay, that's good.
Arguably, at this point now, especially Neynar is acquiring Farcaster. I joked that because Neynar and Farcaster had such a tight relationship that there really was only one set of sequencers and they were all owned by Farcaster in some way. But now it really is it's one entity. So assuming that they're still going to be moving forward on that, I know that they were doing the work necessary to confirm that it was safe to bring in another validator into the set. The way that we're going to be doing this is that once they bring us in, our Hypersnap node will be running as part of the validator set. We don't break protocol. Our messages that apply to Hypersnap only, they operate on a separate channel. They do not interfere with the messages that go on the regular protocol itself. But the way that we are architecting this is so that other people can run Hypersnap nodes and engage in that extra level of consensus for other data. So as soon as they let that through, great. That's one FIP at least partially solved. And, joining our pool of nodes is effectively being a huge set of validators that's adding to the pool. The second one, which is the opportunity for another curator, I ran a meeting a couple weeks back with different people in the community that are building clients, that are building mini apps, that are building AI integrations and stuff, to get a good idea about how they want content to be curated, if they want content to be curated, and how this can be incorporated at some level at the protocol. But I don't think that any of that's going to be landing on protocol anytime soon. And especially now with this acquisition in motion, I don't think that that's going to happen.
Great initiative, though, and appreciate you taking that lead and trying to bring people together to kind of get a better consensus at the larger protocol level. So definitely a worthy effort for sure. All right, Cassie, thank you so much for being here. We actually, didn't we do a lightning round with her when we met at FarCon? I feel like we did. Did we not? Did we ask you about kiwis? Oh, we did. I can't remember now.
I remember kiwis as a concept, and Farcaster is meme around people eating it with the smell on.
Okay, hold on. I think we need to do it really quick then. Really quick. Let's do a quick lightning round, and then we'll let you go.
We'll just do a few.
Yeah.
I guess we started with the kiwi. So Cassie, when you eat a kiwi, skin on or off?
Skin off. I'm not willing to commit to the bit.
Football or soccer?
Neither. If I have to choose, it would be soccer.
What is the next country you want to visit?
Probably Canada at this point. I don't know. I'm kind of limited.
Okay.
It's just a question. You can you can make it up.
You don't have to go.
No constraints. Yeah. We're not booking you a flight. Beach or mountain?
Definitely beach.
If you could bring one person, living or dead, to Farcaster, who would it be?
Or Quorum.
That's a tough question. I think Bill Murray would be interesting.
Who's your favorite Farcaster bot?
Favorite Farcaster bot? Oh man, I think that this is going to be really lame, but I think it's the health bot that Borodech made so long ago. Because all it ever does is every hour post something that's like straighten your back, and that's it. Like, it's
was that the drink water? Was that the drink water one?
I forgot about that one. I totally forgot about that one.
That was early, yeah.
Yeah.
And Borodech did all this stuff that I think are still sometimes they're still active. You just don't see it because now that
they're just not getting used, but they're there.
Yeah. If you could ban one type of cast forever, what would it be?
Content coins.
Okay.
Enough said.
This question is sponsored by Wake. Which direction do you face in the shower? Toward the toward the water or away?
I do a full 360. Like I don't face a given direction the whole time.
Okay.
And if you were to write a book, what would it be about?
Probably about the early days of Bitcoin. I think that there's a lot of things that haven't been said that I think people would be very interested to hear.
Would read.
I would read that.
I would read that.
I would read that.
I would love to hear your perspective and what I know would be some good research in there.
All right, last one. What is the last thing you bought with crypto?
Last thing I bought with crypto was a QNS name. Not
I was like,
plug,
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Oh, that's amazing. Cassie, thank you so much for being here with us. If you're not following Cassie, at Cassie on all the places. Well, Cass on Mars if you're on Twitter, but otherwise look for at Cassie in the Farcaster universe, and go check out Quorum and check out Quilibrium. But very cool. We really appreciate you taking the time today. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
And if anyone wants a QNS invite code to get a free name for themselves, just DM me.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Very cool. Amazing. Thanks so much. And thank you to the Q Army that's been in the chat. We appreciate you. We're going to do a quick little wrap up. We're going to let Cassie go. Thank you so much, Cassie. We'll see you around.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to the Q Army for being here today. I love you guys. You guys are amazing and very protective of the amazing Cassie, and I love that. So apologies that I got a little distracted for a minute, but I appreciate you, and I heard you. So was trying to confirm, and I just have to double check, but I think he has not responded to me, but I think we will have Rish still on Friday because I'm assuming he knew this was coming, even though we didn't.
Yeah. It's
So
on
he
his
said
calendar.
yes.
We are
It's
on
on his
Rish's
calendar.
calendar for noon Eastern Friday.
So I assume that he
Maybe
will
we
still
can get
be
Dan.
joining us.
Maybe we can get
Yeah.
Dan.
We're gonna
maybe we
try
can
and
get Dan to join too.
Dan here. Yeah, we're gonna try and get Dan here. So we will see you all on Friday. We will be here at 11:30 a.m. Eastern to do a little bit of news, and then we'll jump in with Rish at noon. Anything else, Adrian? Let's wrap. And Cassie, if you're still in our green room, hang out for a minute. We'd love to just catch up real quick off screen. Anything else before we wrap, Adrian, for today?
No, I think
I got to get working on my mini app. I got to get my mini app done.
Yes, I got to get working on mine.
All right.
We'll have a new Jam Farcaster mini app coming soon.
All right, everybody. We will see you on the other side on Friday. And until then, everyone.
Wait.
What?
Oh, no, never mind. No. I lied. I lied. I completely lied. It's
okay.
Nothing. Has
I'm
nothing
say
to do with
now.
anything.
All right.
Say goodbye.
All right.
Hang up.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of GM Farcaster. And thank you to all our partners and Hypersub supporters bringing this episode to you. Follow the GM Farcaster channel for all the latest updates and add our mini app on Farcaster and the base app. Until next time, bye-bye.